Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just talked about USC getting a huge win over LSU last night, one of those that might just put them in the CFP race, and that is something that not a lot of fans around the country want to hear because not a lot of fans love USC, but I love to see them up there. It's definitely going to be a very fun season, and another team from a little bit of a blast of the past, Notre Dame gets a huge win over A&M and launches themselves firmly into the CFP conversation. But let's jump into this one because it was a rock fight in College Station this Saturday, and Notre Dame was able to come out on top. It was an ugly game from pretty much start to finish, and I think it was one of those games that probably Marcus Freeman and Mike Elko liked a lot, frankly, being defensive guys, but man, there were times when it was a little bit tough on the eyes as a fan, I won't lie to you, but overall, the biggest takeaway is this Notre Dame team is going to ride that run offense and that run defense, or just defense in general, for quite some time this season. This team is a really, really good team. They have a lot of really good things on this team, especially on the back end of that defense when you have Xavier Watts, when you have Benjamin Morrison, when you have I'm blanking on his name. I very much apologize. Another really good player, number 29 for Notre Dame. But when you have all of those guys on defense, you're going to be able to do things a little bit differently. They are never going to be the team that goes over top and scores 50-yard touchdowns. They're not going to be the team that is going to be able to wow you on the football field, at least offensively. What they are going to be able to do is win a lot of games, and that's the goal, right? You're going to be able to walk out of the door with a 10-point win in College Station because you did just enough. A&M averaged 3.3 average yards per pass, 3.3 yards per run. So wasn't like they got a lot going by any means against this Notre Dame defense. And then on the other side, you saw why Rylie Leonard was brought into this program. It wasn't necessarily because of his elite passing ability. It wasn't necessarily even because of his elite leadership ability, which was very obvious on Saturday. It was because his legs. He was that impressive. And it was the same reason that Will Howard is over at Ohio State right now, because they bring an aspect to this offense that they were missing a year ago and likely kept them from winning a couple of games a year ago. So Rylie Leonard totally opened up that offense, and frankly, there was a portion in that game where that was the only consistent offense that they were getting. Overall, on the other side, they did a really bad job of putting Connor Wegman in winning positions. And it's not to say that Connor Wegman had a good day. He did not. He was very, very rough. A lot of missed spots. Had 100 yards passing. I believe went 8 for 20 in completion percentage. So it was a bad day. I'm not trying to totally take all the blame off Connor Wegman, but man, there were not a lot of points where wide receivers got separation. There were not a lot of points where he had very easy routes where he can just throw them on time, on target, and them get to the wide receiver they need to get to. So at the end of the day, the biggest takeaway I have for A&M is Colin Klein's got to be better going forward. They have to be able to scheme these guys open because very obviously you don't have wide receivers that are going to be able to get open to the degree that you need them to. So you got to figure it out one way or the other, and frankly it falls a lot on the shoulders of Colin Klein and then on the shoulders of Connor Wegman right thereafter. So going to be interesting to watch that develop. Overall, Notre Dame put themselves in a remarkably good spot to make the college football playoff. There were a lot of big wins this weekend. This was comfortably the biggest because you look at the rest of their schedule. There's a Florida State game. There's a Louisville game. There's USC at the end of the year. There's not necessarily games that Notre Dame should walk in and feel bad about. There's probably not a game on that schedule, at least as of right now, that they wouldn't be favored in. So it's one of those things that Notre Dame, we knew the schedule was relatively easy. We knew if they walked out of College Station with a win, they were in really good shape, and man, did they. They feel really confident going into the rest of the year, and we'll get into how they won this game right here. The biggest thing is just Rylie Leonard's ability overall. Now, we talked about the legs. It was absolutely incredible. Had over 60 yards rushing throughout this game. But the other part of it was just the poise that he played with throughout this game. It was 100 plus, 107, 110,000 fans screaming at him for 3.5 hours. It was an environment that was off the walls crazy from start to finish. And he made every play that he needed to make throughout this one. It was really, really remarkable. And I think when you walk through a lot of the different things that happened throughout this game, they were up 7, let it slip away after a pretty bad PI call against Jaden Mickey. And then on the other side, Rylie Leonard rolled right down the field, 85-yard touchdown. He had 20 rushing yards, had 29 passing yards, no negative plays on the entire drive, went in for a touchdown. That's the difference that you get with Rylie Leonard is you don't have this ability where you're either going to run the ball to the running back or you're going to have to throw a play action pass. you now have that ability where that defensive end has to stay a little bit more north and south and make sure that Rylie Leonard is not going to pull and go off the outside. And then on the other side of it, you can just run a QB power and he could get 6 or 7 yards. So that was the big time difference. That was the thing that really gave Notre Dame the offense that they needed down the stretch of this game, was hand Rylie Leonard the ball, let him run the ball, and see what happens, because it tends to be really good things that happen, I'll tell you that. So was really impressed with him, not only from that running ability that we all knew about, but the poise that he showed in College Station was just remarkable, and gives you a good idea why Notre Dame is so confident they can play in those big-time games throughout the season. And then the O-line did just enough. It wasn't the perfect day from the O-line, but I mean, when you look at the rushing stats, with Rylie Leonard, 12 carries, 63 yards, Jeremiah Love, 14 carries, 91 yards and a touchdown, Jadarian Price, 8 carries, 44 yards and a touchdown, and in all of those plays, on all of the big-time plays from all of those rushers, including the Jordan Love touchdown to win this one, the blocking was perfect. They were 2 pulling guards. Everyone hit their point exactly when they needed to hit their point, and Jeremiah Love was able to break through the hole and go for 35 yards to win the game. So it was remarkable. It was one of those things where you're walking into this game and you think the big mismatch. It's the same thing that we talked about with USC and LSU. The big mismatch was A&M's D-line against Notre Dame's O-line. That was not the case. Notre Dame's O-line did plenty. Now, I think A&M had about 7 tackles for losses, so it wasn't like it was a perfect day by any means, but this is all they needed. All they needed was Sam Pendleton, Anthony Knapp to come out there and play good football. It didn't have to be perfect. They knew that it wasn't going to be perfect, but now you got a couple of weeks to figure some things out. Now you got a couple of weeks to put this offensive line together, make sure they're playing as 5, and then you have a guy like Jeremiah Love that is an outright problem for pretty much anyone that is trying to guard him on the outside or running the ball. He's really, really incredible. And then on that Jadarian Price touchdown, he made a guy miss, no doubt about it, but that hole was wide open and gave him plenty of time to prepare for that and then make that guy miss. So really, really impressive work from that offensive line that you came in feeling pretty confident that they weren't going to put on a great performance. They put on an awesome performance. There's no two ways about that. So I was really impressed with this very, very young offensive line. Only had 6 starts total going among the 5 going into this game. So really, really impressive, and one that you got to feel a lot more confident about that unit going forward if you're a Fighting Irish fan. And then A&M's offensive issues did a lot to help this team. There's no two ways about that. When you talk about what Connor Wegman did out there, it was ugly. They 12 for 20, 100 yards, 3.3 average yards per pass, 2 picks, no touchdowns. It was about as ugly as you could possibly get it. And I will say, I think a lot of this falls on Colin Klein's shoulders. You know what you have in that room. That wide receiver room cannot get separation the way that you need them to, plain and simple. They are not able to get the amount of separation against man coverage that you need to get, especially in the SEC, where you're going to play a number of really good corners all throughout the schedule. You're going to have to get that. And if they can't get it themselves, you got to scheme them open. And this is something that Colin Klein probably should have known going into this game, but especially coming out of it, he knows it very, very obviously. Now, there were some moments that Connor Wegman was put in the right positions. There were some moments where these wide receivers did get separation, and he missed them, including overthrowing a 6'6" wide receiver in Noah Thomas. So I'm not taking pressure. I'm not taking anything off of Connor Wegman necessarily. He did not play a pretty game, and when he was given those moments to really seize an opportunity, he fell massively short. There's no two ways about that. But at the end of the day, if Colin Klein knows what he has, if he knows that these wide receivers cannot get separation, if he knows that Garrett Nussmeier is going to miss some of those throws as he's getting pressured, he has to be able to scheme them open. He has to be able to move the pocket and kind of negate a pass rush. He has to be able to get a little bit more dink and dunky from time to time and make sure that they're moving the sticks down the field. It just has to be a better game plan overall to put these guys in chances to win. And overall, the biggest takeaway that I had is losing Evan Stewart this past offseason was huge for this offense. If he's on the field, that's one guy that can make great separation, and it totally changes the complexion of this game. Top to bottom, it would be totally different if Evan Stewart was on that field, but he wasn't. And then the A&M offensive line did not look the part. This was a very, very good defensive line on the other side. I'm not taking anything away from that defensive line, but man, the A&M offensive line does not look like the unit that you needed to going throughout the rest of this season. So if that's not something that's fixed, then you can pretty much just say that's going to be the offensive performance going forward. Just plain and simple. Connor Wegman, if he's not going to get protected, if he's not going to get put in situations to win, there's no world where he's able to execute at the level that he hypothetically can. Now, this one was really, really ugly against a really good defense, but at the end of the day, he's got to be so much better. The play calling has to be so much better. The offensive line has to be so much better. The wide receivers have to be so much better. So everything has to be better on the offensive side of the ball for A&M. Now, the defensive, you feel pretty good about, so I wouldn't worry too much about that, but this one is not great for A&M. But overall, let's do where do they go from here? How do they kind of recap, and how do they get into conference play for A&M, and what is a layup of a schedule for Notre Dame? How do they kind of continue on in their path? And for A&M, it's a little bit easier than some of the others from this weekend because you know what side of the ball is the problem. You know it's offensive, and if you figure out the offensive side of the ball, you're going to have a really good shot to win a lot of games this year. Now, that's easier said than done. Connor Wegman, as we talked about, had a terrible day. The leading receiver was Jade Walker, 31 yards, 6 catches. 5 players made catches in this game, and the long was 18 yards, second play of the game. So this was ugly top to bottom. When you talk about passing the ball, they got a little bit going in the run game, but not much by any means. So it's one of those things that A&M, at the very least, they know what the problem is, and now they can fully attack that problem, but it might go a little bit deeper than we want it to go. So A&M has a chance to bounce back. They can get back from this and possibly go 4-0 in the next 4. They got Florida and Arkansas that are coming up that are going to be tough games, but they have the ability to get some things rolling, and then that Missouri game comes around and we'll figure out exactly what A&M is about. And that Florida game just got a lot more important, and we'll talk about that next segment. But overall, an incredible performance from Notre Dame. It's one of those things that you're rolling forward and you feel incredible. I don't know if there's a part of this team that you don't feel great about. Now, the wide receivers still aren't where you want them to be. The passing game is still a little bit benign in nature, but at the end of the day, if you're going to get this type of performance from your defense, and if you're going to get that type of performance from your offensive line, you're going to be able to win most of the games on your schedule, at least 10, probably 11, and then you're in the playoff. And then you just see what happens at the end of the day. You have a gamer in Rylie Leonard, a guy that absolutely can make all the types of plays that you need him to make, and then maybe a guy like Bo Collins that showed up a little bit on Saturday night can continue to take steps forward. I think Chris Mitchell is going to be a bigger part of the game plan going forward. Was not much in this game, but definitely will be going forward. And I think this offense did enough, right? They did enough on Saturday to get the job done. The defense did them plenty of favors in doing that, but they did enough to get the job done, and now it's about just slowly getting better and putting yourself in a position where maybe inevitably when you get to that college football playoff, you're ready to roll. You've taken the step forward on the offensive line, at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver position, and you can really hit the ground running. But right now, Notre Dame's got to feel great. You are in probably as much as anyone in the country, you are as confident in your ability to make the playoff after week 1 as anyone. There's no doubt about that. So really impressive performance from Notre Dame. Incredible from Marcus Freeman to get his guys ready to walk into a nightmare of an atmosphere and get a big-time win. So this might have been the most impressive win of the weekend, although the one I'm about to talk about in the next segment was downright impressive as well. So that was an incredible game. Notre Dame obviously in the driver's seat for the CFP, feel really confident in their ability. A&M plenty still in front of them, and a lot of things that they have to fix on the offensive side of the ball, but you put Connor Wegman in better situations going forward, then I still think this is a team that can make some noise in the SEC and at the very least play some spoiler for a team up top. But we'll see what happens with those teams. Obviously, we'll continue to break them down as they move on throughout the season. But let's take our second break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the beatdown that happened in Gainesville, Florida on Saturday. Miami went to work in this game, and it was so much fun to watch. And if you weren't a Florida fan, it was so much fun to watch. But we'll break down everything from this game, including just Cam Ward. I'll leave it at that for the time being, but we'll talk about that right after this break, so stick with us.